The killing of Aisling Murphy was not just a brutal crime that shocked the whole nation. It was also an event that has highlighted the fear that exists amongst women in our society for their personal safety. The shocking killing of Aisling Murphy has enabled and encouraged women to talk openly about that fear. More importantly, it has forced society to listen to that fear. I regret to say it shouldn't have required the brutal murder of Aisling Murphy in order for that very real fear of women to get a thorough and appropriate response. Before we start talking about advancing solutions, we have to identify the problem. The problem is that we continue to see in Ireland and elsewhere violence being perpetrated against women and women being fearful because of the threat of that violence. We need to recognise that this is a problem that's not to be measured simply in the number of women who are killed or who go missing each year. It also has to be measured through other measurements. It should be measured by the low-level assaults that are perpetrated on women by men, most of which go unreported. It should be measured by the violence within the home, most of which goes unreported. It should be measured by the creepy harassment that women have to put up with from men, which is never really something which men are exposed to themselves. It should be measured by the intimidatory control that can be exerted on women through the physical strength that some men have. We also need to recognise that violence being perpetrated against women mostly happens where a man attacks a woman he's in a relationship with because he believes he should be able to assert control over that woman. It also happens where men who encounter a woman they don't know believe that the use of intimidation or violence is acceptable in order to control or impose themselves on that woman. Regrettably, there are some men in Ireland and elsewhere who believe that women should be controlled, that they should be submissive to men, and that violence is an acceptable way of achieving those aims. Now, that requires a change in culture, and it requires a change in attitude on the part of Irish men. We also need to acknowledge that this is just not a legislative response that is required, but a legislative response is appropriate. A criminal justice response is appropriate. There is a small group of men in Irish society who believe it is acceptable to exert violence and impose violence upon women. If we're going to deal with it legislatively, we need to start at a low level, where low-level harassment and low-level assaults, we come down on them very strong and we criminalise them to a greater extent than what we have done to date. Thanks, Ken Corner.
Thank you, Deputy.